Please be advised that the notice requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act have been complied with and satisfied, and that the annual notice, which gave sufficient notice of the time, place, and conduct of all public meetings of the New Brunswick Parking Authority, has been filed with the city clerk, has been placed on the appropriate bulletin board in the lobby of City Hall, New Brunswick, New Jersey, and has been transmitted to the official newspaper for the city of New Brunswick, namely the Home News and Tribune, as per the annual notice provided in a resolution adopted by this governing body on December 29, 1975. In front of us, we should have received two sets of minutes from August 23rd, from July 2017. Does everybody have any information or corrections, additions they need to add to those?
None. Make a motion.
Yeah, so why don't we do this? Why don't we vote on these separately, because I can't vote on the one. So why don't we get a vote on the August 23rd minutes first? Can I get a motion to accept those? And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then if we could have a motion on the board minutes of July 26th.
I'll make a motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'll abstain from that vote. Okay. Mr. Karen.
All right, I just have a few items, just give you progress on the restoration work. Basically, it's 90% complete. The items remaining include restriping the City Hall lot, and also at New Street Deck is a drive aisle leading up to the second level, which requires us to actually close the garage temporarily for like a half a day, and that work's going to be done on Columbus Day, because the main users are the county, city, and the jurors. All those entities are closed for Columbus Day. So we're just going to close it for the morning hours and then get the work done and then reopen it. So I don't think it's going to affect many people. Obviously, any monthly access card holders who want to use the deck would be sent to a different facility, but their access cards would be accepted at those garages instead. The City Hall lot striping is also going to be done the same day at Columbus Day, so City Hall is closed. So that's where we're at with the restoration work. As far as the Cultural Center garage goes, they began foundation work at the site for the theaters and the housing portion. The garage portion, as far as the foundations go, comes at a later time, probably a few months down the road yet before that occurs. But things are happening there. As far as the residential permit program, basically the majority of permits are out. The registration, I would say, went very smoothly. We have a total of just below 6,000 permits outstanding now. So when I did a quick survey, I was told that approximately 5% of the permits were obtained at the window. So that's approximately about 300 of, say, 6,000. So it's a very small percentage, considering what we used to get when we basically used to have at least 3,000 people at the window. So I'm very happy with the result of the new permitting system. And lastly, the Wolfson site, they're going to start removing the fencing that surrounds the site. It's supposed to be removed within the next 2 to 3 days. At that point in time, we're going to reinstall the meters, the parking meters that were in the spaces adjacent to the site. So that's all I got.
Okay, good, thank you. Right?
All right, the August financial statement was emailed to all the board members. Year-to-date revenue is 22.4 million. We are working on the budget. Hope to have to the board committee third week of October before the board meeting.
Before the October, okay. Mr. Beer, anything?
Yes, we prepared and executed a lease extension with Jimmy Johns. The business, it had been sold to a new operator and required a 3-year extension on the lease so that it would meet the criteria for the transfer. So that's been effectuated and all rents have been paid to date.
Okay, thank you. Public comment?
Good afternoon, members of the board. Charles Craneville from New Brunswick, the editor of New Brunswick Today. Just want to focus on one item with my remarks today. Can you tell me how much the authority spends on the New Brunswick shuttle, sometimes referred to as the 5th and 6th Ward shuttle.
We would have to get back to that.
Offhand, it'd be in the budget.
I don't recall seeing, I don't think it would be built for that. Yeah, I'd have to look into that.
Okay.
Yeah,
I don't have a
we'll
number.
get
I don't
back
have-
to it. We
I'll get back
don't, we
to
don't
you.
have that.
Okay, it is a, parking authority is involved in it though, right? It was,
We're involved with it as far as, initially, we were involved with the setting it up with New Jersey Transit and Rutgers and the city. As far as everyday involvement, we have really none, other than our logo on the bus. That's basically it.
well, I hate to break it to you, the logo's not there anymore, they got new buses, and they're, well, new old buses. And so I did want to address this because that is a route that I've always thought has a lot of potential to help take cars off the road and ultimately get people to and from their destinations into off-campus, areas near Rutgers. That was probably what you were thinking when you started it. But unfortunately, ridership is low. Has always been low since I've been here. But at certain points in my time in New Brunswick, when I lived in certain locations near the bus, I would ride it, and it really, it's a point I've made before to this board and to the Traffic Commission, that ridership would probably increase if there were more bus shelters along the route. Because just from the perspective of a Rutgers student, I think most Rutgers students are not even aware of the shuttle being something that they can hop on if they flag down the driver. Whereas if there was a shelter, the shelter would have signage explaining where the bus goes, and it would be clear that it's a Rutgers bus. I think because it's usually smaller than the other Rutgers buses, most Rutgers students assume it's a special bus that's not for them and don't even try to ride it. So I think that adding shelters would be one thing. I also, in 2011, met with Jack Molinar at Rutgers and gave him some constructive suggestions on how the route might be changed to make it more appealing to college students that they're trying to get to ride the bus. And basically, he adopted my suggestion in part, in that, beginning that year, they have two routes, one that goes clockwise and one that goes counterclockwise. One of them was kind of my suggestion, and the other one being the traditional route. So now there's two bus routes that are both the New Brunswick shuttle. And I guess to differentiate them, they call one the New Brunswick Shuttle 1 and the other the New Brunswick Shuttle 2. Well, unfortunately, this is now the second time that Rutgers has changed the branding. Now they just call it the Ward 1 and the Ward 2, which, as people familiar with New Brunswick must know, are real places in New Brunswick that bus doesn't go to. So they're literally driving around empty buses that say Ward 1 and Ward 2 on them, and I think that the route was created for a good purpose. I think it's not living up to that purpose. I think something needs to be changed. I think at the very least they should properly mark it, properly label it about where it goes, and be upfront about where it goes, so as not to create confusion. And I know I'm not the only one that's upset about this. Other people have complained to Rutgers, and I would like the parking authority to, at the very least, make it known that it could be better. I also learned today that these newer buses, these new old buses that are going around, are First Transit buses. Rutgers contracts their service with First Transit, which is a company I believe is actually based in the UK, Scotland. And all these sort of unmarked buses that we see around now without the Rutgers markings, for the most part they are repurposed old buses from North Carolina State University. You can see on the side some of the markings are still, if you look at the right angle, you can see it was called the Wolf Line in North Carolina State. And I was disturbed to find out that a bus driver actually died from the diesel fumes that were being emitted into the bus, and others were getting sick from these buses that have now been brought up from North Carolina to New Brunswick, New Jersey. And I'm concerned about Rutgers' entire bus system and this deal with First Transit and the kind of low quality product that we're getting. And I wanted to bring the New Brunswick shuttle to your attention because that one is really just essentially, if you are spending money on it, it's being wasted. It's being wasted because the route is not properly marketed. There's not enough shelters along the route, and now they've got these old buses that are not aesthetically pleasing, but also may pose a danger to drivers and passengers. So I wanted to put this on your radar. I think it's something that would be worthy of the parking authority revisiting this agreement with Rutgers, revisiting NJ Transit's involvement, and finding ways to maximize the ridership, because otherwise we're just, I guess a pun, spinning our wheels. And I think there's room for improvement. I think it could take cars off the road. It could help the parking problem. And I think it was started for a good reason. I hope it can continue in a better way than it has. And that's all for today.
Thank you for your comment. There's no other public comment. Any board discussion before we get to resolutions? Okay, if not, we have a payment resolution for August. Can I get a motion to accept the payment resolution, approve the payment? In a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mitch, want to go over number 2?
Sure, number 2 is to continue our membership with the Middlesex County Joint Insurance Fund. This is for a period from January 1st, 2018, and terminates on December 31st, 2020. I've been using them for a number of years at this point. They handle our workers' comp and employees' liability, our general liability coverage, motor vehicle and equipment liability coverage, and also property damage coverage as well. So, looking for
Okay.
approval on that.
All right, can I get a resolution approving our continued membership in the JIF? In a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Number 3?
Number 3 is to, we're putting a 2013 Jeep Patriot out to pasture. So we're looking to bid it off.
And there's another
As
one
we-
added.
Oh, we have another one? Sorry, late news. Hot off the press. We also have a 2008 Ford Escape that we're looking to sell via the US Gov bids site. We've done this with all our vehicles. So we're looking for approval to allow us to go ahead and do that.
Okay.
So is that by way of motion?
Resolution?
Yep.
Got a motion for that? Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. It's new with the bridge.
Nothing. Still waiting for Amtrak to come back with their comments on the 30% design drawings. Spoke to him last week. The fellow, my liaison at Amtrak tells me that he did get comments back, but he had some questions, so he has to speak to the person who submitted their questions to clarify something. I still have not heard back from them. So my plan is to speak to them by Monday of next week to get an update.
Okay. Okay, thanks. Any new business?
No,
Any closed session items?
no.
No. Okay, in that case, it looks as if we have no other business to conduct. Can I get a motion to adjourn? And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.